Hello and welcome back. I'm Steven and this is Apache Nifi. Let's continue where we left off in our last episode where we built our entire flow here. So if you remember correctly, and if you haven't watched that episode yet, I encourage you to go back and go back to episode number 2 where we built out this Nifi flow. Now in this flow, we're getting CSV files, which is USGS data for earthquakes, and we're sending it all the way to the end here, which puts it inside of MySQL. And a table located there. Now, I want to make some changes here. We didn't really do anything to the data, except we split it up, right? We took a text file, CSV file, we split them into lines, the one file into lines, and then we converted it into JSON so that we could use the convert JSON to SQL processor and then put it into SQL, or my bad, put it into MySQL. So let's go ahead and make some changes to the data now. So first things first, let's go and get ourselves some more data. I already repopulated the folder because we did delete everything as it was coming in. We're going to slow things down a little bit though. We're going to do one batch here. Schedule this for 1 every hour for when it runs. We'll go ahead and apply that. We'll say this processes 5 or every 5 seconds. No, actually that one can be every 2 seconds real quick. We'll convert records every 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds at 10. Or no, we'll do 5 each. No reason to rush through those. So we have something to work with here, right? Now, one thing in the last episode that happened is, as you increase your concurrent task count, your threads that can be running at one time per processor, what you need to do is manipulate Nifi as a whole so that it can go and run concurrently, because it does have a limit. So if you go up here to your little hamburger menu and then you go to controller settings, you have a couple tabs here, right? So the first one is general. We have maximum timer driven thread count. So this was at 10, which is why we hit a hard limit last episode. And then you have a maximum event driven thread count. So I've gone ahead and changed these. Really, you should gauge these. You'll have to experiment with them on your own when you run in a production environment and stuff. You want to gauge them around your system performance, your server, and stuff like that. So in this case, this one's like, I'm running 32 cores, 32 gigs, so we shouldn't have a problem at all, really, with this type of thread count. So we're going to do 512 concurrent tasks at once, and 128 if they're event driven. So I've already applied those, and they get applied in real time when you do it. So now we can go up to a much higher maximum, and we won't have to worry about things. All right. So what I want to do is go ahead and turn this on, turn this one on, and hold off right there. We don't want to convert record yet. Now, what I'm looking to do is take these when they get converted into JSON. I want to take the JSON, and I don't want to keep all that information. So how do I get around this? Well, actually in Nifi, there's many different ways to do this. The one we're going to use is what we call a Jolt Transform Json. And that's this one right here. So it applies a list of Jolt specifications to the flow file JSON payload. A new flow file is created with the transform content and routed to the success relationship. So this one will do exactly what we're looking for, which is transform the data inside the JSON to what we want the output to be. Go ahead and add that one to our canvas here. Now, if you don't know anything about Jolt, so there's another way to do this besides using the Jolt processor would be something like a script. We could write our own script, right? Like an execute script. And with the execute script, you have quite a bit of functionality here. If we go to properties, I have multiple script engines I could use. So I have JSON, Groovy, Lua, Python, Ruby. And between the 6 of these, I could use any one of them to basically either load a script file or just paste the body of the script in here. You do have to know a little bit about how flow file objects, you bring them into your script and then how you output them back out. So there's a couple things there to learn as well. But this is another method that's available to you. But we're not going to use that one right now. We're going to work on Jolt. So Jolt, if you don't know anything about it, allows you to manipulate JSON directly. So you can go to something like jolt-demo .appspot. It's a pretty good place for learning the different types of getting examples here, seeing how they applied, learning how to write the code itself, and then having the output demonstrated for you. So that's just an option there. Now let's go ahead and get back to this because I already know what I want to do here. So first thing is we're going to make some space here. And let's go ahead and zoom in. And then let's go ahead and get rid of this connection here because now after we convert the record, we're going to go straight into the Jolt. We want the success. And then our output, we want to come out and we want that to be the success as well. Let's go into the processor here. Let's go ahead and terminate the failure. And then we have some settings and options here we need to take care of. So our Jolt transformation DSL is going to be a chain. There's multiple other options to modify, overwrite, remove, shift, sort, custom. You'll learn those as you play with Jolt and you learn how to use it. So we're going to leave it on chain. And we could just write what's known as a specification for Jolt, or basically your code, right? Your script that you're going to apply. You're going to take this and apply it to our content. So we could just put it straight in here, or we could use this advanced functionality down here. Click on this. And yes, we want to save before it opens, and voila, here we go. We have ourselves a Jolt specification that we can write in here. We can take JSON input, we can paste it here, and then we can use the transform button as we're writing our specification to see what the output looks like. So before we do that, we need some JSON, don't we? One thing we need to do is, if you remember correctly, when this guy is outputting the JSON, it's wrapping it inside of an array for JSON. So we don't need that. So let's go ahead and get rid of that first. So let's go back to convert record. And then JSON record set writer. We want to change the writer. We want to turn off the writer. Close that. Go ahead and edit the writer. And then down here at the bottom, basically the output grouping, we're just going to say one line per object because we already know the inputs that we're getting into this, they're one line to begin with. So we don't need to worry about having to use an array or output it as an array. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now if we go ahead and turn on convert record, scheduled at 5 and 5, let's go ahead and do that. Start, we're going to get 5. Okay, now let's go ahead and grab one of these as a sample that we can use to work with on the Jolt. View it, and you see we have a line here, one line, we have no array. So let's go ahead and copy this content. Go ahead and leave there. We'll go ahead and stop this right now. We got plenty of samples to work with. Let's go ahead and edit this one. Go to properties and advance again. And now we're going to take our input, paste it here, and we're going to write some Jolt. So Jolt has a couple, the body is written a specific way. First of all, we need some brackets, squirrely braces. And now we can go ahead and write. I'm not worried about format too much because it will get fixed for me in a minute. So first we do what's known as the operation. And our operation, we're going to do a shift first. So we're going to move some data around, kind of. That's how I like to think about it. And then we have our spec for the shift that we're going to perform. And we open that up. We put a close down here and we come back up. Okay, so let's go ahead and format this input down here so we can see it better. Okay, so this is everything's in our file, right? Our flow file. Now, honestly, I don't want all this stuff to make it to my table at my end product. I'd rather size down my table and only keep what I really want, what I would like to work with, right? So what do I want to work with? Well, let's go ahead and make this just easier to work to create the spec real fast. So we'll paste that right there so we can edit it now. I do want to keep time, but you know what? Let's give it a new name. Let's call this guy time. And then normally what you do is you would just rewrite it as time again. So here's our value in key, right? Go ahead and put our key there, and then the value I want is to be the time from down here in the content. Same thing with lat and longitude. So let me clean this up to what I want. I will keep depth, I will keep mag, and then I will go all the way down to ID. I'll keep ID just because I might need it later. I'm not worried about update, honestly. We already have when the event occurred. And then type earthquake, I do want to keep that. And I think I'm good. Yeah, I don't want anything else. Let's just stick with that. That sizes it down first quite a bit. Go ahead and put that comma back there that we're missing. We can click over here to format if we'd like. So it's cleaned up. So right now we need to fix the rest of these though. So let's go ahead and finish writing it in correct syntax. Oh, you know what? I don't want that. Okay, there we go. All done. Now if I click on transform, or I can validate if I want to. Oh, good, it's valid. Transform. And you see we're carrying over from our input to our output, but we've drastically cut down on what we're moving over. So this is a pretty good way if it's already in JSON. It's not, once you learn how to use Jolt specification and Jolt transform, it's not difficult. It's a little tricky here and there. But a little bit of work with it and you get pretty familiar with it, right? Now there's a couple things I do want to do. I can transform a little bit of this data as well to meet my needs. So first thing I want to do is I want to rename time, make it a little bit more meaningful. Let's call it event timestamp. So we go ahead and hit transform here. We see, hey, look at that. It renamed it and it put the value in there. So there's our key value there again. Now the other thing I want to do is I don't really want lat long to be two separate fields. I kind of want them to be one. And the reason for that is I think I want to take this data to Elasticsearch at some point, maybe to use it for mapping. Well, if you go to Elasticsearch, there's many different formats you can use for geopoints. And one of them is this one right here. And this example shows whatever you're going to call it, in this case, location. And then it shows lat long here as well, combined or concatenated as one string, right? So I want to put it into a string format as well. Let's go ahead and do that. Now we'll go back here now. So one way I can do that is I can add a new one in here. Whoops. I can give it a new name. Or actually, what I want to do is tell it, you know what, take latitude. Actually, why am I doing that? I'm wasting time here. Okay, take latitude and you know what? Put it into a new key called geolocation. And you know what? I want to do the same thing with longitude. So what you're going to see here now is when we transform it, it's going to build an array with those two put in the order that they've been placed in. So now we see we have latitude and longitude in here. And they're both treated as strings, but they were put into an array in order to make this happen, right? So that's not going to work with us down the road, so we're going to have to make some extra changes there too. And man, you know what? Maybe I just want to spell out mag here. I could easily just change this and call it mag latitude. And then we can go ahead and say transform, and we're done. There we go. We have our new output's going to be event timestamp, geolocation, concatenated together, depth, magnitude, ID, place, and type. So this format kind of fits into what I want for my Elasticsearch ability later. But unfortunately, it's actually wrapped inside of an array, so it's not a string all by itself yet. So it's not the format I really want. So let's make some changes to that so we can get it out there. So I want to do a new operation now. And then I'm going to say, you know what? Let's just reuse some code here. But this one's going to be a little different. So in this case, I'm going to do what's known as a modify. Modify. Overwrite beta. Okay. And let's see, 1, 1, 2. There we go. We got the missing one now. So the one I want to modify is I need to do a couple steps here. At least the way I understand how to use Jolt. There could be a quicker way to do it, but it's hard enough. It was challenging enough for me to learn this part. So trial and error, I finally got to it. But what I want to do is say geolocation. And then for that, I want to toString. And that takes care of that step. Now I say transform. Oh, wait. I forgot the equals. toString. There you go. Now it really doesn't look any different, right? There's something else I need to do here. So I need to perform another operation. So that's going to go right here. And this will be my third operation now. And I do need to, I want to do the same type of operation. So another modify overwrite. And then this time, I'm going to say geolocation. And then let's join these. So I'm going to use join single. Remember it's this way. 1, geo location close, and I think that's it. Oh, am I missing something? What did I get wrong? Oh, I missed that one. Okay, now I can transform to clean it up a little bit. It looks pretty. Now I hit transform, and what do you know? I've taken it outside of there, and it stays a string. So there you go. That's the final product that I want. So this is just one way that you can use the Jolt transformation DSL to do some work for you. I mean, there's a lot of other ways, and sometimes it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. First thing, let's go ahead and save this work, right? So we're going to say it's already valid. We know it works. Let's go ahead and say save. Close this one, and let's go ahead and test it out. We have 25 available that we can use. So if we go ahead and start this guy, they all went through successfully. Let's take a look at one of them. And we'll look, view, and we can see if we format it, we have exactly the output that we're looking for. So we've taken a much larger amount of data, about 2.5 times more lines that we had before. We've cut down the file size for the flow file, and really we're only keeping what we want to move forward and get to the end, or to the endpoint that we're trying to place this into. At the same time, we thought about the future, which is, hey, let's create a geolocation that has our lat long, which is a geopoint that we can use as a data type for Elasticsearch later. And then we're renaming a couple things here and there too, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and close those out. So in this episode, we were able to get quite a bit done in a short amount of time. And as you see, it can process pretty quickly as well. This is one of my favorite ways. Once I learned how to use the Jolt transform and get used to the syntax for Jolt, it actually became one of my favorite ones to do, because you can chain together quite a bit in there to manipulate your data. And it's just one of the many ways you can manipulate it. Another one that we'll get to at some point later is query record. And we could have used that to do the same thing we just did, but we didn't use it. And what that lets you do is evaluate one or more SQL queries against the contents of the flow file. So basically, it allows you to, it's kind of like Kafka SQL, where you can run SQL statements against the flow files as they're flowing in and get the output that you want. So that would have been another way as well. But this one I find much quicker for this case, what we're trying to do, and it accomplishes it really well. So now it's back in the loop here, and here we go. We have something that works again, and we go back over here. This is going to work in this case because it is JSON. And now we just have to change our table now. We can go rebuild our table to only have the columns that we're keeping now for this JSON format. So if you got any questions, definitely feel free to use the comments down below. We'll leave off here, and we'll move on to our next little processor that we're going to add in here to the mix to enrich or do more with our data that we have here. And believe me, there's plenty more. So definitely feel free to use the comments down below, ask questions, provide suggestions. Hey, there may be other ways that you think are great to use too. Or if you got any questions on how to use a certain processor that we haven't covered yet, or that you'd like to make sure that we do cover, please definitely feel free to take your time and ask. I'm Steven, and I'll catch you next time. Have a good day.